I hate Kagurabachi leaks. I'm seeing more and more of it. 3 days, 5 days before the official release, more people starting to create accounts to leak it purposefully. It sucks. It's disappointing. I roll my eyes so far in the back of my head when I see that on Twitter. You might not care what I think, right? But I genuinely believe it ruins the community. Partially the reason why I can't stand seeing anything Kaizen related, because so much of it, millions upon millions of people are seeing all of that stuff 5 days before it releases. But then when the official chapter comes around, not a word. No one talks about it. No one mentions it. I've been lucky enough to have the luxury of reading something like Chainsaw Man Part 2, even Danadan or Centuria, for example, 0 leaks, and it is the best experience ever. Reading a story every week that has no leaks at the same time as everybody else getting excited talking about it, mentioning it on Twitter, is phenomenal. I can't describe it, and I hope that if you've never experienced that, one day you get the chance to. Feel so a part of the community. Leaking breaks that entirely. And for what purpose? What ends? Some people get a bit of money, some people get more followers. That's about it. It's all for selfish gain, really. They don't care about the story. They're just trying to get in first. I'm just not a fan. I think it's silly. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You big enough, you old enough, but try not to spread it more. Try not to indulge within it. It's really not that hard. Just read the officials. It's free. Trust me, it is so much better. Because where I'm sitting, the history of leaking does not look good for Kagurabachi. It's going to get worse and worse and worse until it becomes as bad as Kaizen. That's not a good time at all. Putting it aside, we have a great chapter, a lot of great moments, a lot of great characters. You'd be surprised to know that we get quite a lot of information in here. We get introduced to this guy. His name is Yoji Uruha. He's one of the wielders for the Enchanted Blades. His compound just got raided, obliterated. But we got more details and specifics, which I really like. I appreciate that. Personality-wise, I like this guy. He's a curious fella. Seems very laid back, very chill. Has a very clear obsession with Chihiro's father. So much so that he didn't believe that Chihiro was his son or is his son. Kind of just denies it outright, saying that his father would never bear a child of any kind. He's just not that person. Mind you, he's going off of old information. 18 years ago, when Uruha was entrusted with the sword by Chihiro's father himself. This is a veteran right here, someone that participated in the war, so of course they have experience, but they've been out of the game for a long time. I will say I do like how they keep coming back to Chihiro's father's influence. You recently see it with the Kagurabachi, and before that you constantly see it with the continued connection between obviously Chihiro and his father. When people relate it to looks and attitude, the influence that his father has is incredibly profound, and it's woven through this narrative very heavily. Even when Chihiro isn't being used as an anchor to bring it up, it's still segmented here nicely with someone reflecting on the past, someone talking about the Enchanted Blade, someone mentioning the war. Perhaps one day we will get a flashback, a proper one, in regards to what that war entailed, what Chihiro's father represented, being a hero to the people because he created these swords. And while I am curious on that reception, that process, I would also like to see how he acted as a person. What was he like within that era? What was going through his mind when he created those swords, these powerful objects that could obliterate nations if within the wrong care? A great point of early characterization that I really like for Uruha is when he finds out that Chihiro's father is dead. Man just enters depression, just gets hit with this brick wall of, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here. He's not having a good time. And perhaps because of that, it spirals him into complacency. He becomes out of touch with reality now that he's holed up in this compound away from civilization. He can't speak or see people. He's day in, day out spending the same time with the people that are sworn to protect him. He's still living an adequate lifestyle, nice location, with people surrounding him, food, water, everything. He's not harding it out by any means. He's surrounded by 14 elite Kagurabachi fighters, but still you can tell that he's incredibly drained by the experience. He's just living day by day, perhaps waiting for potentially something to happen. The reason I mention this is Shinichi, Magatsumi, and that sword bearer. When we seen the snippets of their location, even though it was artistically crafted to be very disorientating and disjointed, you don't know the specifics of that location, it just kind of seemed barren, like a cold concrete storage room. We don't know where that sword bearer is. We don't know if he's holed up in a very secretive compound or if he's locked away in an underground prison. I think that might be problematic. Perhaps the experience that some of these sword bearers will go through or have been through over the course of the years, being isolated, depending on how they've been treated, could either be incredibly beneficial or horribly against what the Kabanabi and even Chihiro stand for. To put simply, I don't think the sword bearer of Magatsumi using Uruha as a reference would be a very good ally. He looks angry. He looks upset. I understand keeping that sword away because of the power that it upholds, but you don't want to make an enemy out of that sword bearer, do you? Perhaps that is the hard choice. Now, the compound that he was in gets obliterated. We know this. They used the Datenseki stones. We know this as well. What we don't know is the specifics of the Datenseki stone, which is something that perhaps will get revealed more and more throughout this arc. This is one of 4 sword bearers that they have to find and retrieve. I imagine the Datenseki is going to appear more and more for certain individuals. I would consider them the bigger hitters, the generals that will come out to play, the bigger fights. We should have this on the tip of our tongue at all times, because when it comes to the enchanted blades, the equipment that Hiyuki has, Flamebone for example, and the Datenseki, they're all of equivalence to each other power-wise, which is a very dangerous combination. Anyone wielding that Datenseki stone is going to be problematic to the equivalence of an enchanted blade. Uruha does not have his. That's the issue. He just has a normal sword, but that doesn't mean he's useless, and he proves that to be so. While he's able to escape and remain rather mysterious trying to meet up with Chihiro and Hakuri, a lot of people jump them. He manages to find Hakuri, but about 20 other sorcerers as well. Specifically, sorcerers, not just hitmen, but not the Datenseki stone. One thing that I loved is the quick flip on Uruha's character. It kind of made him out to be a little bit useless, kind of out of it, kind of bored, just not really feeling it because he hasn't been in action for a long time. But in the back of your mind, you got to remember that this man is a veteran. This man has been to war, so he still has muscle memory. He's still in there. He's still ready to go. He just doesn't have the weapon that made him fierce. So to elevate that notion, so you don't take him lightly, you notice that he's very observant. He notices the correct amount of sorcerers compared to Hakuri, who actually gets it wrong. Small, simple, but vital to understanding the experience that Uruha has. But he also mentions that the Datenseki is not being used here, even though there's a ton of different sorcerers, a ton of different people. Even if you argued that because they have such a big body of people right now, they don't even need one, it still brings up a valid question, a valid judgment. Why not use it? What is the problem? Is there a restriction? Do they not have that many stones? Is it too dangerous to wield? Is it uncontrollable? These are big questions, big things that, like I said before, will perhaps be revealed later on down the line, but constantly be tugged at to remind us. To wrap this all together nicely, a really cool moment is when Chihiro appears, right? But the way they set it up gives real movie vibes. Simple, straight to the point, but effective. It has a style to it, an aura to it that is just really addicting. These are small fry, peasants, don't stand a chance whatsoever. So why spend time even trying to fight them when you can just blitz through them easily and have an impactful entry scene? It is funny though that this entrance mixed with Chihiro's determination to protect Uruha completely snaps him out of that attitude of Chihiro's father not actually having a son. He sees the resemblance, he sees the same energy, same mindset, and he switches on a dime. Is willing to fight for Chihiro, willing to die for him, willing to do anything for him once again. Obviously he's conflicting the aura with Chihiro's father, that's clear, but perhaps that's going to go a lot longer of a way forward. I want to see how this man communicates with Chihiro naturally. Does he dot over him? Is he obsessive in nature? Is he kind of curious and prodding and poking and probing? Who knows? Clearly he's capable, clearly he's a veteran, clearly he can hold his own. But in front of him, the eyes, the face, the aura, the resemblance is uncanny to the man he once worshipped, to the man he was willing to die for, to the man he offered his life to. There's a lot of great stuff in here. Big setup, very enjoyable, and I'm excited to see how far they get. Do they blitz through all 4 of them? Or perhaps more likely, we spend more time with certain individuals compared to others, because I wouldn't be surprised if Uruha is relatively quick in compared to the second, third, or fourth person that we have to go visit? And if that is the case, is it like a drop and go situation? Do we have the time for that? Do we take him back to Kagurabachi headquarters? Or perhaps because he's so obsessed with his aura that Chihiro has, he might just come along for the ride. Clearly he can handle his own, and as much as that would be dangerous, very problematic to have your sword bearer running around that's so valuable, so important, the idea itself might just lean that way more. Honestly, reading this every single week, leak free, at least for me, has been nothing but brilliant. And I would more than highly recommend that if you can, do the same. Give it a try. Don't read the leaks, it's not worth it.